The next step is to display and print, or make a screenshot of, the trial balance report before preparing the adjusting entries. So we need to open up the report. So it's Reports, Accountant and Taxes, Trial Balance, and the dates. I'm going to tab to the From field. The date should be the 1st of February, 02/01/19, to the end of February, 02/28/19. A tab to refresh. And then it says it's important to print or have a screenshot of the balances before adjustments. Once you start making adjusting entries, balances on the trial balance will change and you will no longer be able to easily view the balances before the adjustments. So what I like to do is I like to take a screenshot. You can take a screenshot however you want. I like to use a free tool called Jing, J-I-N-G. So this is my trial balance before adjustments. Another thing you can do is you can print this report or you can export to Excel. So the way to export this to Excel is to click here and then click Create New Worksheet. Click on Export. And then what QuickBooks will do is it will open up Excel and export it to Excel, and there you go. Now here's what it looks like in Excel, and you could use this even to do formulas, to make calculations if you want. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose to use my screenshot from Jing so that I can see what my balances were before adjusting entries. The next step. Use the information that follows to prepare adjusting journal entries. Record each adjusting journal entry separately and use February 28th, the end of the month, for the date. So remember, all of these adjusting entries we're going to do are at the end of the accounting period, in this case the end of February 2019. So the first adjustment. Record advertising expenses for the month. So here's what's going on. Let's go to Chart of Accounts. And as you may recall, this company has purchased some prepaid advertising. Notice it is a current asset, which means it's likely to be used up within the next 12 months. And because it's an asset, that means it has a future value. So I'm going to double click this to open up the register for prepaid advertising. And you see that on the 1st of February, we purchased $600. So to open the bill, so we can see how many months it was for, we need to right click on it and then click on Edit Bill. And as you can see, we purchased 6 months of prepaid advertising, and it was worth $600 and purchased at the beginning of the month. It is now the end of the month, so we have used up 1 month's worth. So if we purchase $600 for 6 months, that means each month is worth $100. So I'm going to click Save and Close to close this window. And notice the balance over here shows that we have $600 worth. But actually, now that it's the end of the month, this is no longer accurate. So we have to lower this from $600 down to $500. So here's how we're going to do that. So I'm going to close this window. We need to create an adjusting entry to lower that account and then to increase an expense account. So the way we find that window, there's a couple ways. You could go to Accountant, Make General Journal Entries, or you could go to Company, Make General Journal Entries. So I'm going to click on this, and then you might have this come up, this little window. It's not an error message, it's just a notification. It says assigning numbers to journal entries. So what it's talking about is this field right here where it says entry number. It says QuickBooks now automatically assigns numbers to journal entries. If the entry number field is blank, simply enter a number in the field. Subsequent journal entries will be numbered automatically. And then we can turn that off if we want to. So here's what's going on. So notice it says in our instructions, it says for entry number 1, in other words, this first adjusting entry, use AJE1. So I'm going to click OK to close this box. I'm going to type AJE. That stands for Adjusting Journal Entry 1. And then once I save this, and QuickBooks opens up the window to do another one, it will automatically change this to AJE2. All right. So don't forget the date. The date is the beginning or the end of February 2019. So 02/28/19. I'm going to tab. And also we want to make sure that this adjusting entry box is checked, because this will help this adjusting entry show up on one of our reports later on in the case. So always make sure that for a true adjusting entry like we're doing now, this is checked. So as we said earlier, the prepaid advertising account, I'm going to switch back to the chart of accounts, shows as $600. And we need to lower that account. So how do we lower an asset account? So one thing you can do is you can go back to your trial balance, and this reminds you, notice here is our prepaid advertising account. It says 600. So how do I lower an account with a debit balance? I need to credit it. So I'm going to switch back to my Make General Journal Entries window. I'm going to skip the first line because we have to list debits first. So I'm going to find prepaid advertising, and I need to lower that by $100. Now we need an account for the debit. So remember what's going on is we've used up prepaid advertising. So we need an expense that will show us that we have used up advertising. So we open up our chart of accounts, go down to the very bottom where the expenses are, and we can see advertising expense right here. So I'm going to choose that. That is also $100. So remember, you have to list debits before credits. Get in the habit. To get full credits for this adjusting entry, you need to list the debit before the credit. So there we got it. Advertising expense goes up by $100, and the prepaid advertising, which is an asset, is going to go down by $100. But also notice that in my instructions I say make sure to explain your calculation in the memo field. So this is required. And a lot of students wonder, well, why do we have to do this? Well, years later, if this is the real world, you could be audited. And the auditor could ask you, okay, well, why are you showing this $100 worth of advertising expense? You need to document that, how you calculated that. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say in the memo field to record 1 month's '(S) of advertising expense. And then this is critical. You need to show how you calculated it. So how do we calculate the $100? We calculate it by taking $600 divided by 6 months, and that equals $100 per month. So there you go. Hopefully you can see the whole memo. To record 1 month of advertising expense, and then write down the formula. $600 is what we paid for the prepaid advertising, divided by 6 months equals $100 per month. Okay, now I can save with this button up here, or I can save and close down here, or I can save and new if I want to do another one. what I want to do now is I'm just going to click the save up here so I could keep it on my screen. So I saved the journal entry. Now I'm going to go back to the trial balance and I'm going to refresh it. And notice my prepaid advertising was $600, but now it's $500. That means I've updated it correctly. So let me find my screenshot. So the trial balance over here is the screenshot before I did the adjusting entry. And notice it shows that our prepaid advertising was 600 and now it is 500. So we have adjusted that correctly. And if I scroll down, well, I don't even need to scroll down. I should now see advertising expense $100 right here. So we're going to go through this process for several other adjusting entries. And when you do that, make sure you put them on a separate window. So I'm not going to add the next adjusting entry down here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click Save and New, which will give me a blank screen. And notice the AJE2 automatically updated from AJE1. And now I can do my next adjusting entry right here.